Hey guys, it's David from theunlocker.com, and today we're going to do a quick review of the Samsung Galaxy S3, Samsung's latest Android flagship device to launch here in the States on all 4 carriers. And let's begin by rattling off a few of the major specs. Under the hood, there's a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core processor, 2 gigabytes of RAM. We have a 720 by 1280, in other words, a 720p, 4.8-inch Super AMOLED display. It has a micro SD card slot with 16 gigs of internal storage in addition to that. This one we're using is AT&T. The AT&T and Verizon versions have LTE, obviously because their networks have LTE, whereas the T-Mobile and Sprint versions do not. It has an 8 megapixel rear camera and a 1.9 megapixel front-facing camera. We have Bluetooth 4.0, Wi-Fi, and DLNA, which is Wi-Fi Direct, which a lot of TVs have. All of the Galaxy S3s are obviously going to have, and they kind of use that to share stuff in between them, just at a much faster rate, but we'll get into that later. The version of Android that it is running is Android 4.0.4, which is Ice Cream Sandwich. They've already also announced that they will be upgrading it to Jelly Bean or Android 4.1 in Q4 of 2012. Okay, other than the specs I already mentioned, let's talk about the hardware and styling. The screen is huge, but they did manage, because of this tiny bevel here on the sides and because of the aspect ratio, to not make the phone too large, even though it has this giant screen. It's very light. You can tell, though, unfortunately, that it is entirely made out of plastic, which not always is a problem. I mean, I've seen some phones that are made out of plastic that still look very, I don't know, high class or more like a higher end device. This one seems to fail at that a little bit. I'm not sure if it's just the color that I'm testing here, but it's this blue, shiny, looks like cheapo plastic. So that kind of takes away from the fact that this is their flagship device. Okay, now let's talk about performance. Now, I did already say that it does have a dual-core processor and 2 gigs of RAM, and you can tell. Even with this custom Samsung user interface on top of Android, it still is very smooth. Runs quite well. Opening the app drawer, opening apps. Is as quick on here as any other flagship device. We also ran a quadrant score kind of benchmarking test, and it scored slightly above the HTC One X, also on AT&T. So that is showing you that it is pretty much at the top of the spectrum when it comes to performance. Okay, so as with most Android devices nowadays, they all kind of have the same similar features, the same phone type of situation, messaging, Gmail, browser, all of that. They function in similar ways where they have these home screens, they have an app drawer, you can put widgets on the home screen, notification shade comes down from here, and so on and so forth. But what most people or most manufacturers are now doing is they're putting these custom user interfaces on top of Android. So you have your regular version of Android, which I showed you earlier on this device. And then any differences you notice between the two of these, that's what Samsung has added. So I'm not terribly a big fan of this, but we'll get into that later. But instead of going through all the features that Android has, I'm going to let you know about some of the features that Samsung has added, and more specific, some of the apps that they've added that do actually add some cool functionality to the device and are worth noting. If you are curious about how Android works and you're new to Android, please check out the link underneath this video on our site for our Android 4.0 overview, and that'll kind of show you everything you really need to know. Okay, so let's get to the big one that everyone notices about this device. It's S-Voice, which is their Siri competitor from the iPhone. So basically what they've done is they've taken the voice command system that Android has inherently built in that allows you to launch apps, send text messages, that kind of stuff, and just kind of bumped it up a notch and also gave it a more personalized assistant, secretarial feel, more like Siri. So basically how you launch it, you just tap the S-Voice button. What is the weather for today?
A thunderstorm in spots today. The current
Another cool feature they've added is video pop-out. So basically what this is you can go to a video player, select any video, push that button while it's playing, and now it plays above your home screens. And you can go to text messages and send a text while it's happening. It turned off because the video actually ended. But again, you get the idea there. Not sure how practical this is. I'm not sure I'd be watching a video on my phone that small while I'm trying to do stuff, but it looks cool, and maybe someone will find some use for that. Next up is a feature called Smart Stay. So this basically, you set the device's timeout. As you can see up there, I have it for 10 minutes, but let's say you set it for 15 seconds. Every 15 seconds, the device, if Smart Stay is enabled, will use the front-facing camera to detect if you are looking at the device or not. Then it'll reset that 15-second or whatever you have the screen timeout set for timer. So it's a neat little feature because it's great for, say, you're reading web pages and stuff, or you're reading a book, whatever you may be doing, and you're just not touching the screen and you're just reading. It'll wait those 15 seconds. You'll see a little eyeball icon come up in the notification, means it's looking at you real quick. It turns off really fast and then resets the timer. So it's a neat little feature. I could see how that Smart Stay option could potentially save you battery life if you have it set to something really low, like 15 or 30 seconds. Checks real quick, done. If you're not looking, it shuts the screen off. So that could potentially save you some battery. Next up is AllShare Play. This is an app that Samsung has put on the device and allows you to access any of your content on your laptop, your tablet, and your phone, of course. And it's similar in a way that, say, Google Drive works. The other benefit of this, though, is that it does also support Wi-Fi Direct. And so this is where a few of their other little additional features come in, like buddy photo sharing and Wi-Fi Direct sharing. So basically, you can take a photo, set it up to share with AllShare Play, and anyone else that's in the vicinity that has a Wi-Fi Direct enabled device, like another Samsung Galaxy S3, can also see that photo immediately. Any photos you take will be added to their gallery with the AllShare Play, and vice versa. So if you're having a party or whatever, and everybody has a Galaxy S3, which, maybe that could happen, you guys can all be taking pictures and all kind of have this shared photo album. You can also share these photos directly between each other if you all have, again, this AllShare Play app, and just send one-off photos to each other. Another feature Samsung is pushing on this device is called S-Beam. Now this takes the normal Android Beam, which uses NFC you can tap your devices together to be able to send stuff to each other. The normal Android Beam only really works with things like YouTube, videos, browser, contacts, things that aren't necessarily files. They can all be accessed through the internet, and it just kind of shares the URL and does some magic that way. S-Beam takes it a step further and actually allows you to share files using that Wi-Fi Direct feature and Bluetooth 4.0 that we kind of mentioned earlier. Okay, so essentially you can put your phone on the back of another phone, and it says touch to beam. You tap it, it tells you to pull it away, and it sends the photo to the other device. Now, this is cool, and it's kind of what Android Beam should have been from the beginning, in my opinion. But the downside to S-Beam is that it only works on other devices that have S-Beam, which at the moment are just the Galaxy S3. So unless all of your friends have Galaxy S3s, you can't really use the feature, and you're just using Android Beam, which is inherent to any NFC-enabled Android ice cream sandwich device. Okay, and lastly, for the added software that we kind of want to talk about, there is a lot more than this, but these are kind of the main features that Samsung is promoting, so this is why we're talking about these ones. But is the camera. They've added a lot of things to the camera, which are actually pretty cool. One of the things they added is called burst mode. Now, you've probably seen this on other devices, and some third-party camera apps do this as well. Samsung did a good job of implementing it here. What you can do is you can hold down the camera button, and it'll continue to take shots up to 20, just rapid fire. And there you go. I can tap that, and you can see all of the different shots. And this is great, obviously, for live action. You're watching a basketball game, you're taking pictures. Okay, and in addition to burst shot, you can also tap this button here to turn best shot on. And so now what this does is it automatically takes 8 photos when you tap the shutter button once in the burst shot kind of a mode. And then it allows you, and well, first off, it picks the photo that it thinks is best, the one that's in the best focus, etc. And then if you want to keep more of those, you can by tapping and holding on the thumbnails to do just that. So you'll see how it chose that one for whatever reason. I can also choose a couple more if I want, and then hit done, and it'll automatically delete all the ones that I didn't choose to keep. Okay, so now as far as rooting and customizing the device is concerned, I mean, we are the unlocker, we kind of have to talk about it. The device has already been rooted, all of the different versions, in fact, which you can find the tutorial on how to do that by clicking on the link underneath this video on our site. And with that, you can do things like remove the custom UI, add different performance enhancements like overclocking and that kind of stuff. And it's all reversible. You can unroot and your warranty is reinstated and all that stuff. So definitely I would recommend checking that out. The phone has some great hardware, and one of my biggest peeves about these devices is how much custom skin they put on the device. But we'll get to that in the conclusion. Okay, so in conclusion, some of the pros of the device is that it's lightweight, it has a large screen that doesn't make the device too large because of these small bevels. It does have some neat added software, which I'm surprised about. A lot of times I see custom UIs and the software doesn't really do anything for me. But some of this is kind of cool. The S voice is neat, although it's already kind of been replaced by Google now in the Jelly Bean update, which this is supposedly getting in Q4 of 2012. Other than that, I mean, the speakers are pretty decent. They're actually pretty loud. The camera is decent. And 4G LTE on AT&T, at least when we were testing with this device, is really quick. A lot faster than, say, the Galaxy Nexus I was using here that doesn't have LTE, obviously. Some of the cons is the fact that these hardware buttons are here. I don't care for them. There's no real point, considering now they're built into the operating system. You don't need these anymore, and you can kind of tell that it was something that was just left over because they probably were designing this phone before Ice Cream Sandwich was announced, and they went, well, screw it, we've already written all the drivers and all the stuff for these buttons, we're just gonna kind of stick with it. Not a big deal, obviously, but kind of a peeve for me. So the last thing that's a con on this is obviously the skin that I keep talking about. The fact that they put this custom user interface on here, I get it, they need to differentiate this device versus all the other Android devices in the world. For me, though, it's all about the hardware. The fact that this has great processors, a lot of RAM, an awesome screen, that kind of stuff, a great speaker. I'd rather have, you know, vanilla Android sitting on this. That would make this device more appealing to me. And then give me the S-Voice app somehow as an APK, as a regular app. Because the other downside to this custom skinning, and really the big problem, is that it makes updates take forever. For example, I have a Galaxy Nexus, which is has nothing on it that's not just pure Android from Google. So the Jelly Bean update that just was announced a couple days ago, I already have on my device. This device, Samsung's announced that it's going to take until Q4 of 2012 before they can put that update on this device. And the reason being is that they have to re-engineer everything with that new operating system, the S-Voice, the s-memo, this custom user interface on top, the app drawer, all of that stuff, and that takes time. All in all, the device is a great device. Very smooth, even with this custom UI, which sometimes slows things down a lot. Doesn't seem to too badly on here. The not having a custom skin is kind of my personal preference. And again, it's already rooted, so if you want to remove the custom skin, you can. And you can, of course, check out our site on how to do that. For the price, for the $199, it's the same as, say, an iPhone or anything like that. So between those devices, it's really a personal preference. The Android device obviously is going to give you a lot more customizable options, different apps, S-Voice compared to Siri, etc. So I'll let you be the judge on that. Overall, definitely worth checking out, going into any of your local carriers because it's on all of them. So you don't have to switch carriers for the device, which makes it a little easier to adopt. Go check it out, play with it in the store, and let us know what you think.